Hi, welcome to the Jeff and Jerry Show. My name is Jeff. I am the Borough Manager of Mount Pleasant, and my co-host,
Jerry Lucia, Mayor of Mount Pleasant.
Jerry. Do you have a tingling feeling right now?
I have a great feeling
Doesn't it feel different today than it did the last couple of weeks, the last couple of years?
Yes, it does. And sitting in the store with the owner and his lovely wife, we're sitting here, and it was a festive day.
A lot of people. A lot of people came, which is a nice testament to our guest and the fact that he brought back a tradition in our
He sure did. He took today the heartbeat of downtown business district has now gotten stronger and better.
Right.
And it's just a fabulous day to be in Mount Pleasant.
And we can use lots of different examples. You called it a heartbeat. It's really an anchor. If you want to talk about retail, it's an anchor store of our town. And our Main Street is very good. We have a viable Main Street, and I think we're proud of it as a town. But there was that magic that I thought that people expected, like Macy's in New York, okay? And you have those different places that are tradition. I think Levin brings that magic back to our Main Street.
It is Macy's of Mount Pleasant.
It is. And the windows, the windows are the perfect example of the windows at Christmas time.
Yeah, that's for sure.
People come to see those windows and come in and shop. So we can talk about that all day long. So we had our guest on recently because we were talking about this.
Yes.
And now we're finally here. And our guest, as always, Mr. Robert Levin.
It's really great to see you guys again.
Yeah, it's been like a couple of months, but we've been...
I was telling my wife the other night that I consider the Jeff and Jerry show better than the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Well, listen, what else can I say other than I agree? Now, Robert, this has to be a good feeling for you today.
It really is. It's a special day. We've been waiting for it. It's the last of the 7 Levin Furniture stores in the greater Pittsburgh area that opened. For quite a while, we didn't think we'd be able to come back because another furniture retailer had come in from out of state. Yeah. But unfortunately for them, they didn't make it, and we were able to reacquire it. The great thing is we've had tremendous support from the community. Just if you look at social media, everybody's really happy for us that we're back. And we're thrilled to be back. Thrilled to be back here on Main Street in Mount Pleasant after just having celebrated 100 years in the furniture business. So it's a milestone for many reasons. We're coming out of the pandemic. There's a bright future, I think, and it's just an exciting day. It really is.
And we want to talk about today because we talked to you about lots of history and there is a little section that we're going to do at the end of the show. But let's talk about today. When you got up this morning, what went through your mind?
Well, I knew that I had to take a shower first. So.
Okay. That's why we're sitting close, right?
That's right. No, it was exciting. I was anticipating the day and knowing that I would be with a lot of friends. A lot of our former employees came today to celebrate with us, folks who had worked for the company.
Oh, I saw quite a few
40 plus years, and we had a great turnout. It was really exciting. And of course, all of the associates, many of whom have been here for many, many years, who really worked so hard to make this a reality. In fact, we do have one of the gentlemen here that really was instrumental. It's our designer in charge of all of our store design throughout the entire company, our wonderful Scottdale native, Tom Zworzylewski.
Well, maybe we could bring Tom.
We could bring Tom out. Tom, I see you out there. Why don't you come on over?
He's fighting his way through the crowd to get here.
Pushing your way through. And Tom has been with the company for 41 years.
Yeah.
He started when he was 5 and as a stock boy.
Well,
and he's done an amazing job with all of the Levin Furniture stores, and
Well, Tom, I think you saved the best for last, right? This is the last
Absolutely.
one, right?
That's right.
You saved the best for last. I mean, the store is gorgeous. And it has that, but it has that Levin feeling from the past too.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Well, and that's
my.
just the charm of this
Yeah.
building. I mean, the different stores
Yeah.
joined together and the history that's here.
you can't duplicate that.
Right, and so many of the team members, I'm very lucky to work with a great visual team, and even like so many of the dock staff that was moving the product, I had a lot of young fellas assisting, and they're in love with the building. The colonial house, that it was
Right.
an old townhouse, and just the history of this section was basically a shoe store, and then Robert's grandfather starting half of the main showroom, and it's just it's like exploring, and it's really nice to see that all ages enjoy this building and that love the character and all that's here.
Well, I think the different rooms also lend itself to the theme of the room and
Sure.
setting up furniture in what would be a room at the house.
Yeah, well, and with the colonial house, which is such a mainstay to this particular building, we have the Amish Village product in there with all the dining room, and to your point with the bedrooms upstairs in those areas, it really allows you to see how it would look in your home.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun putting everything together, and like I say, just again the character of this store, just the warmth.
Well, Robert did hint earlier that he wants you to make all the other stores look like this one. So there's
that means chopping them up.
yeah, making different rooms,
Whatever you need, Robert, just let us know.
But, Tom has really been so critical to the history of Levin's, building Levin's, but then the rebirth of Levin's. He brought these stores back, these Pittsburgh stores and Cleveland stores back, truly in record time. The team worked day and night to get these ready to reopen, and all during the pandemic, which created a lot of challenges. We had to be very careful, very safe throughout this. And so I just can't thank you enough, Tom, for your efforts.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah.
And the team and I were very proud to be able to do this for you. And
Yeah.
we just it's that Levin spirit, and it just is.
It's that magic, isn't it?
It's family. It's what
Yeah.
it is. It's family.
What was the hardest part, Tom, of opening up not only all the other stores, but this one?
There really was not a difficult part because it was just fun the whole time. I mean, getting the freight and everything moved in, just everybody rolling up their sleeves.
Did you have any delays with vendor issues? Because we were having delivery issues.
Well, they had a lot of the floor samples reserved for this showroom. There's a few places where I have a couple empty slots
Okay.
we're waiting for, but we were able to spread the product out and so forth that way. But we were lucky. We really did not have any difficulties. Thank you for allowing us to block off the street with the cones to get the trucks and everything in.
Well, that was part of the
you
advertisement.
really did great.
That was part of the
You did a great
advertisement,
job
though.
supporting our needs, and we thank you for that too. Because that certainly made it easier for us to bring all the product in.
It also looked good when we were down at the Levin lot.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, we were down the Levin lot, and I saw the tractor trailers coming in with
Yeah.
the furniture. You had them parked down there, and I thought, boy, this is a great feeling.
Yeah.
This
Just
is a
that
great
electricity,
feeling.
the excitement.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Well, there is a good team. I mean, everybody that we worked with, I felt was easy to work with. I mean, it wasn't anything that we had to compromise. It was pretty much easy to do. So it was, I mean, other than just saying yes to everything, I mean, it was easy.
Great.
Super.
Well, thanks for being on the show.
Thank
and
you.
you did a wonderful job.
Okay.
And
Appreciate the compliments. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tom. Fantastic.
So all the employees that you brought that came back to wish you well and good luck for the
Yeah.
opening the store again. Is there anybody that you want to mention right now, real quick?
Well, there-
in between.
Some of our really senior folks who had been with the company for over 40 years, folks like Bob Francis and Basil Hawanchek and
Basil's
Basil was
first
here.
person I
Diane
saw.
Finley and Bill Glowacki Sr., of course Paul Fess, and just so many. Scott Frazier, who's still with the company after many, many years. Freddie McCloy, who had been a
Yeah.
long-time employee I hadn't seen in so many years, who just wonderful to see everybody and to see some older customers that I hadn't seen in many, many years, either friends of my parents. So it was just great. It was
Yeah.
really a homecoming and kind of a love fest
Now,
it's just great.
you have a car out front. You want to talk a little bit about that for a second?
Well, sure. We have the head of our shop, the man who is the head of our whole repair department, Paul Fess, who affectionately goes by the name of Pidge, has been a race car driver for many, many years. He's still at it in his late 50s and rides up in Jennerstown. He used to be at the Smithton Speedway. He had a late model, but he also drove a pickup truck as part of the pickup truck series. And we were sponsors of his truck and his car years ago, and he's back at it again, and he's got his race car, and we're thrilled that Levin's is a sponsor this year. So if any folks, probably will be gone by the time this show airs, but if they want to see the Levin car, they could go up this season up to the Jennerstown racetrack and watch Pidge drive. His dad, some people may recall, was in the Indianapolis 500.
Yes.
Oh, really?
And so there's a real legacy within his family of racing.
Have you ridden in the car yet?
I have not.
That would be the next
Might
show.
be
That would be the next show.
I might be a little afraid of the speed required. If you were allowed to go on a baby course, maybe, but I'll leave that to the pros.
Okay.
Well, maybe we can leave a few minutes.
But why don't you take a pic? Yeah, at the end.
And we could take a picture.
Take some pictures of it. It's a very cool looking car. Yeah.
Of Mr. Levin ready to get in his car.
Looking like he's getting it.
Why don't you splice me in somehow?
And then it look like he's getting out of it, too. At the same,
That's right.
Well, we have some other people here. And I know one of them has always been the backbone of you. And, it takes more than your two hands to do what you do, right?
Absolutely.
And it takes a lot of support.
Yes.
And you're always in a good mood, so that must be a testament to her.
I think it definitely is.
So we should bring in our next guest.
Okay.
I'll let you introduce her.
I am thrilled to introduce my loving and lovable and wonderful, supportive, encouraging, perfect, fabulous, come on in here, honey, wife, Carrie Braun, MD, I should add, and who helps me when I'm having issues.
Aw,
and
thank
is
you, honey.
a great.
So you're an MD,
Yes.
and you want to talk a little bit about your background as your MD?
Sure. I am by training a pediatrician.
Okay.
And I had worked, I went to Children's Hospital Pittsburgh here for my pediatrics residency. And then I spent about 8 years being a general pediatrician in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. And for various reasons, I ended up retraining, going to Philadelphia, going to the University of Pennsylvania, and retraining as a pediatric radiologist. So I do pediatric radiology now, and I work from our home, and I read for several hospitals that are out of town.
And how did you meet Robert? Buying furniture, or would you meet or was he coming to you for some medical?
She was taking care of a big baby.
Actually, I met Robert because my mother was friends with Sally.
Okay.
And that is how I met Robert. My mother and her friends were planning a birthday party for Sally, and my mother got in touch with Robert and said, "We need some photos. Could you help us out?" And so he came to her house and he dropped off some photos, and she met him, and she was very forward, and she said, "I have this daughter. Would you like to meet her?"
How about that?
How about that? And I was a little mortified, but I'd heard about Robert, and I'd heard some nice things about him, and I figured
All lies,
since I was
but-
living, I was
You
living
use
in,
what you have. So
That,
I was living in Philadelphia, and he was living here, and I did come back frequently because unfortunately at the time my dad was very ill. But I figured that he was going to say that I was geographically undesirable, and that we'd meet, and that would pretty much be it.
But that didn't happen, did
That
it?
did not happen, but
And
that
for-
is how we met.
And from that point on, it was love at first sight. Almost.
I would say I really liked him from the minute that I met him, actually. That is true. We had a wonderful time.
I believe he
going
always
out.
sings that song, I Found My Love in Philadelphia.
Really, we always had a wonderful time. He was a funny, he is a funny, intelligent, kind, interesting person. We had wonderful time.
Lots of
on our
energy.
date. Lots of energy. Our
Lots of
second
energy.
date, we took the trail. We took a bike ride from Connellsville to Ohio Pile,
Round trip?
34 miles. And we
Yeah.
also went to the Youghiogheny River and went swimming in the river at Ohio Pile.
And she swam. She wanted to go
near the
twice.
falls, like with the undertow. It's amazing. It's amazing I survived. the
And you
second
stayed with
date.
him. And right after all of that, you stayed
It's
with him.
amazing.
Well, he
But I-
figured if you could survive that, you could survive.
I was very impressed. I have to say, she.
Well, tell us a little
She
bit
was
about
great.
Robert that we don't know. I mean, we know a lot about him, obviously. What don't we know about him?
What don't you know about Robert?
What's the other side of Robert?
Other side of Robert.
A little bit of a worrier.
Well, Robert is a worrier, but in a responsible way. In thinking about buying back this business, it was very stressful for him. He was very concerned about the employees who had lost their jobs. He was concerned about people not having health insurance. But on the other hand, he was also concerned about, was it a good move to go back into business during a pandemic? He had to make this decision at the beginning of the pandemic last year, around April of 2020, and things were closed. He was concerned about, would there be customers? Would people want to physically come to a store? Was he going to be allowed to, was the store going to be allowed to be open? How many weeks could they survive not being open? There was a lot of stress. So I think that's the part. Everybody sees the ebullient, boisterous, funny man,
Smiling.
which he is many times, even in private. But there's that other side of
Yeah.
being concerned, and really being stressed.
What's he do to relax?
What does he do to relax? Oh, well, we live near a beautiful park. We are very fortunate. We live near Shenley Park in Pittsburgh, and we also are close to Frick Park. Robert loves to walk in the park. There are trails. He goes for miles in the park. He loves to bike ride. He does that. He listens to jazz music. Really huge fan of jazz music. All those things to relax. Drinks occasionally.
Well, let's talk about that.
Those kinds of things to relax.
I hope I don't think I overdo it though. No.
No, he doesn't. He's not stumbling around the house.
No.
She never had to lead you home.
No,
That's right.
I never had to pick him up at the local bar.
What motivates him?
That's a good question. I truly think, unlike many people, that Robert is really by nature an altruist, and I think that what motivates him is the pleasure that he truly gets from helping other people. He's one of these people that's not just something that he says. It is a real pleasure for him to help other people, and I think that that's really what motivates him.
Go ahead.
I think every employee that works for Levin's treats him some as big brother and some as big dad,
Yes.
because I know how you care about your employees. And
Yes.
I've never heard an employee, and I know a lot of your employees, never heard one of them talk you down. I mean, it was always good about you. And
Yeah.
in the family, I mean, you're good. They go back to your mother and your father.
Yeah. I think you are an example of your family.
Yeah.
I think you've carried on that family traits that sometimes you don't see through kids. Kids don't seem to sometimes have that same respect for people and that same way of doing things like their mom and dad did, and they want to change things. I don't think Robert's that way.
No, we know he is.
See, we're talking about you like you're not here, but that's
Yeah.
how we want to do it.
No, that's what I mean. It's genuine, and that's why I think the employees feel that way, because it's not a put on. It's a true caring about other people. I think that's really the bottom line. Is I think that's what motivates him.
I had visions standing down there today. I saw your father walking with his clipboard, going through the store. and I saw your mother checking out
Schlepping furniture.
all the furniture out. You could always drive by and see Mom walking in and out of the showrooms.
She loved working. You know, it was the happiest. Her happiest moments
Was in here.
was in the store. She was
Yeah.
always in a good mood.
Yeah.
You know, it was really interesting.
Yes, he was.
So
Well, she probably felt comfortable here, and
Yeah.
she probably
She
this
really-
was a
she
this
really
was
liked it.
security for her.
yeah, she really liked it.
She was community minded too.
Yeah.
Very strong.
She was a
community-minded.
grand marshal, member of the parade of the
Mhm.
festival.
Yep.
Boy, she accepted that right away. She enjoyed it, I think.
Yes, she did.
She was on
Yeah.
the school board.
Yes.
She advertised by sending out a postcard of her 5 kids and said, "Don't you think this person would have some experience?" You know.
Is that right?
And she won in the election. She was the first woman in a
Elected.
couple of generations.
How
I
about
think,
that
was
idea?
elected to the school board. Yeah. So I think I still have her card that she sent out in 1961 or 62, whenever she ran for the office.
Yeah.
So,
that's-
you were following in her footsteps, elected
Well,
officials, right?
I learned after her.
Yeah.
Her and Mayor Patoka were
They
very
were
close
big buddies.
friends.
Yeah, big buddies.
And I could see that relationship,
Yeah. Well, Bill was a great guy.
Yes, he was.
really was.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
I followed a good man.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah. How many years was he the mayor of Mount Pleasant for?
16 years.
Okay, so between the two of you, it's 50 years.
A little beyond. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
60,
that's-
50 years.
Talk
yeah.
about continuity.
Yeah. And that means a lot, and that's probably why Mount Pleasant has done well,
Yeah.
because of the continuity.
Yeah. I mean,
Bill used to tell me after I'd taken office that you better be nice to your police officers, because he says they'll protect you from getting run over walking down.
yeah, that's right. You got to be careful crossing Main Street. It's busy.
Yes, it is.
It really is.
Well,
A lot of action here.
Yes.
I think Robert's in good hands with you as his wife.
Thank you.
And I love your socks. First of all, I have I wear kind of socks like that. Mine are mostly Dizzy, but I like the different kind of socks.
Thank you.
So that's
Well, I had to have the chickens for spring.
that's a nice little touch.
Well, you know what
Robert-
those socks were really from, honey? Do you remember?
No.
That's when briefly the Steelers had a quarterback.
The Duck.
The Duck.
Yeah.
The
So I
Duck.
got my wife duck gear.
Yeah. Well, he's no longer on the
He's
team.
no longer on the team, but the socks survive.
yeah, for now.
Yeah.
So, Robert, we have a little bit of time left.
Okay.
And I know that you. I want to ask you one question before I say this.
Sure.
Are you ever going to write memoirs or some of the stuff about your family and about you? And you ever think about doing that?
Well, you know, possibly. My middle sister, Anne, who was an editor at the Associated Press in New York, and she's the writer in the family, and she's actually written a memoir about our
Oh.
family. It's not published yet, but a lot of stories. I don't know how much about the furniture business, but about growing up in Mount Pleasant. So when that gets published, that'll be interesting, I think, for people to read.
Well, it's either volume 2
Could be volume 2.
or it could be
Companion
the a
story.
little addition to the next chapter. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. There's definitely a lot of stories. You know, one thing that I wanted to tell you, since I saw you, remember we talked about last time how back during the Depression that my grandfather had the reputation for allowing people to make payments in farm goods, eggs, cheese, butter, produce. Well, just a few weeks ago, I found a payment book from a customer by the name of Bowman, who lived on right around one of the streets in town, and I saw on the payment book from 1932 where they accepted payment in the form of work done on the roof of this building in lieu of cash. And so there was actually, because I'd always heard the stories, but this was a real documentation of the fact
Well,
that they did do this. So I was fascinated, and that was since I saw you guys last.
Well,
so,
and I mentioned to you my grandfather and my uncle who had a gas station
right, would
would
also
trade
trade
eggs,
as well.
eggs for gas and
Yeah.
things like that.
So there really is a lot of history, and it would be great to somehow collect it. Our former guest here, Tom, is very involved in the Scottsdale Historical Society and been very, very active in kind of creating and documenting that history. And so maybe I can get some help from him and
Okay.
with Mount Pleasant. So.
Well, we have a couple minutes left, and I know we want to take a break, and we want to go back to that little section
Okay.
of that history that you have
Sure.
set up, okay?
Let's do it.
So we'll be right back in a minute to show you some of the history of Levin's that Robert has in the store. Well, we're back at the Levin store, and in the back of the store, there's an exhibit, I would call it, set up of all the history that the Levin family has been able to, and you guys have preserved, right?
Yes, that's correct. We have a lot of memorabilia here. One of the interesting is the scale from my old Kentucky home. Sally explained to me that that was Sam's scale, and originally whenever this half of the store, they would weigh all the stove bolts and everything, so they would know how much to charge for the hardware. So this was actually used for the business to weigh all the hardware, the bolts and so forth, and we have a photo here of this half of the store whenever Robert's grandfather started the business back in 1920. We all have great...
Now, this half of the store is when he started, and then it expanded to
They
the
took
other
over
half.
the other half in about 1947, 1948, and then, of course, like in the 70s, they took over the Colonial House where the Zimmerman Townhouse was, and then the shoe store was in the middle, and then eventually they were able to take that space and take up all, this section of the block.
Well, we have another area that he can take over.
Sure, that's right. And then we have a lot of photos here of the town and, of course, different of the employees over the years. There's a lot of great memories of the Bryce or the Lennox Glass Factory. Leonard acquired that property like 1969, 1970, and we have one of the warehouse sale ads listed on the bottom. That was tremendous for the town and bringing everybody in. It was always such a draw for everyone coming into town, and I do know that in November, Sally always took great pride in doing the turkey sell ads. She had such literary skills, but she always had a great play of words on the items and fun.
I think the advertisement that Levin did helped the rest of our town and our business district more than they understood.
Absolutely.
Because the amount of ads you did and the amount of people you brought into town benefited the whole Main Street.
Well, just like when you look at these bound journals, they're done by the year. And just for example, you would go for one weekly item, there would be up to sometimes 3 ads by Levin Furniture just in one publication, for
Jerry
the
used
category.
Jerry used to cut the coupons out all I remember he tried to redeem a coupon from 1942.
Robert was still on it. But it's just like it's a reflection of staff and the Levin family, photos of Sally and Leonard and Howard, and like say employees over the years, the company picnics and things. Just a lot of wonderful memories here over 100 years.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice little exhibit, and it does exemplify the history of Levin's, and not more I can say, Robert. It's great. Right, Jerry?
Robert, you had to have been in one of those books, or now these photos over here. Is this?
That's Howard.
That's Howard.
That's my brother.
Yes.
It's my father here.
Oh yes.
And my mom is here. And
Yeah.
these pictures are a little harder to see, but these are from some. We always have company picnics out near Smithton. And started out as a memorial for my brother. The first one was on July 28th, 1994, and we had them every year. There was a little hiatus with the new company, but we hope to start them back up as soon as we can get fully through the pandemic and be completely safe. But it was a fun events for our employees.
I would imagine at those picnics you'd walk around and shake hands with every employee you had.
Well, in the early days, we had a little fundraiser where you got into a pie throwing booth. And we had real pie, and people would throw it at you, and you had to keep your head in the hole, and I got annihilated.
But was it good pies? I mean, it wasn't the whipped cream pie. It was like cherry and all
Well,
that.
what was it, Tom? Do you recall, like butterscotch or
I was
something?
able to avoid. So
Tom was able to conveniently not be
Yeah.
there at the
be on
time. so-
vacation.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
well, every time we do a show with you, we run out of time. So we have about 30 seconds left. Jerry, you want any last words about?
Last word, Jerry.
Last words is welcome back to Mount Pleasant.
Hear,
And
hear.
Yeah.
We're happy. The town is happy, not just the political end of the town, but the customers. And I could see they'll be flocking into this store
Yeah, well,
because they don't have to go out of town.
walk.
No, no.
They can walk to Levin's.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the show again today. And every time we do a show with Robert and Levin's, it's always been a special show. So make sure you come and visit Mount Pleasant, and make sure you're stopping at Levin's with all the other stores. And thanks for watching and listening to the Jeff and Jerry Show, and we'll see you next time.